Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Another frustrating afternoon at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham 2, Manchester United 2. A result that feels more like 2 points dropped rather than 1 point gained. More points dropped at home. Spurs conceded right at the end against the Manchester United team down to 10 men. And we still look like a team searching for real identity under Thomas Frank. So we have a lot to get into this afternoon to break down that game. I mean, Jack, firstly for you, a point gained or 2 points dropped from the situation we found ourselves in?
Feels like watching Man United, I just came away from that feeling like they're nothing special, or at least that game, they weren't anything special. They felt like a very beatable team. We didn't even play that well, but it felt like we were still actually kind of the better team for a lot of that game. We just were really lacking quality at times, but it seemed like they were there for the taking, really. So, in a way, I would say 2 points dropped because of that. Because, yes, we were able to salvage something. We were able to get back into the game. Then we somehow grabbed a winner with only so many minutes left. Then to concede a late goal in the manner that we did, poor game management, poor defending from the set piece. I think you would probably give a few reasons for 2 points drop. Maybe more positive minded people might look at it as a point gain, but I just think Man United were there for the taking. And when we did actually get ahead, it felt like it was a possible game to hold on to. It felt like there was realistic expectations. We should have been able to hold on.
Yeah, I think if the game finished 1-1, I think you could say it was a point gained. But the fact that we went 2-1 up with 60 seconds to go and we couldn't hold on,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, then you have to sort of look at it and go, 2 points dropped, short and simple. That's where I'm at with that. But Jack, I mean, let's start with the starting lineup today because it didn't really feel many fans full of confidence heading into the game or from the outset this morning once it was announced. And that sort of correlated onto the football pitch. Frank made 3 changes from Tuesday. Udogie, Odobert, and Bentancur all out with Jed Spence, Sarr, Armour Charlison coming in. Did he get the lineup wrong today? The start lineup?
I think so. I think he had to play Odobert. He had to start Odobert for this game. Playing Johnson and Richarlison, we've probably seen some of our worst attacking displays with those two together in the same team. I think we saw that against Newcastle, where they were wasting chances, even though they really were nothing special in that game. I felt like Johnson and Richarlison, I do remember them actually having chances and they were wasting them. We saw them, I think, together against Bodo Glimt as well. That was one of the worst performances we had ever seen going forward. I think these guys are honestly hopeless. It feels like they can't play together at the same time because they don't know how to create for others. They often make the wrong decision or the play breaks down when it goes into their feet and they just can kind of go missing in games. And as well, it just felt like with Kolomolani, who's been sort of our best forward at the minute, he's played very well with Odobert. They seem to have good link up play. Xavi Simons has had good link up play with Odobert too. And yeah, I think he broke that attacking chemistry that we were seeing against Copenhagen. Really wrong lineup. And
I
Udogie as well is another interesting choice because Udogie did play this game. So you would like to think that he was potentially available to at least play 60 minutes. And he decided to go with Judd Spence, which also might have been a mistake. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think you got the lineup wrong from the outset. You're playing at home. At the end of the day, you got to be putting out a much stronger lineup than that. That at least because at the end of the day, Frank and the players have had stuff to say about the fans in terms of not maybe being the most vocal or helping make this Tottenham Hotspur a fortress. But at the end of the day, when you're selecting lineups like that, fans are already flat going into the game because the reality is they could see exactly what unfolded today before it even happened. And for me, I think the over rotation once again has come back to bite us and has cost us points. Look, fair play to Thomas Frank. He sort of rectified his mistakes. He brought on Destiny Udogie, he brought on Wilson and Odobert, and hey presto, miraculously, we looked so much better going forward. Destiny Udogie set up the first goal after a good initial drive by Wilson Odobert, and Wilson Odobert set up the second goal. And for me, the fact that they came on and impacted the game massively is living proof that he got the lineup wrong from the very beginning going
Yeah.
into the game. But Jack, I mean, look, like we said, there were changes again today, but once more, the lack of consistency in team selection seemed to show on the football pitch and is costing us valuable points. Spurs look disjointed at times, unsure of their patterns of play, unsure in terms of when to press, and you have to ask the question then: does Thomas Frank know his best 11 yet?
He
And should he?
does. He doesn't. And I think he probably should by now. I think especially it sort of is twofold to a degree where we know that we've been a team that kind of has struggled to create in games, and we aren't really that devastating going forwards. And you would imagine a bit of a solution to that would be you eventually find at least the forward combination and the forward line that does tend to threaten more than others, or you would go with the one more consistently that you feel like, all right, I can get more out of this combination of players than others. And he just seems to continue to switch it up, even though he's seen a lot of signs that there is a certain formula and a certain formation and set of players that do seem to perform better and do seem to create more consistently in games than other combinations of players. And that's where I think the frustration is, Dave, is that I don't think we're still that great going forward, but there has been signs that there are certain players that seem to work well together more than other sets of players together. And he just continues to mess and rotate with it, and it's come to his own detriment, it feels like.
Look, it's coming back to our own detriment as well. I mean, we're dropping points, left, right, and centre right now. And I think that is because he's tinkering with the lineup far too much. At the end of the day, the idea behind rotation is to preserve players. Well, they're still picking up injuries, and we're less than 20 games into a season,
Yeah,
so they shouldn't
good
be that
point.
tired. They don't need preserving. When you're a new manager coming in, very quickly you have to settle on your best 11, and that way you can start expecting consistency and cohesion on the pitch. Right now, what we're watching is a team that no one really knows what our identity is. There's no identity on what we're trying to do. You're looking at a team that they're not quite sure when to press, when to sit back. You're looking at a team that has no cohesion or patterns of play in terms of going forward to be able to break down opposition. And I keep screaming it. I've been saying it for years. Goals at this level are the most important because at the end of the day, it helps you go and win games of football, being able to break teams down. But not only that, it means teams are already coming in, sitting back, playing counter-attacking against you and sort of making your life a lot easier. And for me, how can we really expect, to see any rhythm or chemistry if Frank doesn't settle on a core group? And
Yeah.
that's my big problem. What we're seeing on the pitch is directly down to him constantly chopping and changing all the time. For instance, Destiny Adogi and Wilson Odobert built up a lovely relationship over time. Drops them today. For
Yeah.
why? It's absolutely madness. And it's cost us points today, but I've been arguing it's cost us games all season. It cost us against Bodo Glimt away. It cost us against Wolves. It cost us against Brighton. There's so many games this year you can point to directly where his changes to the starting 11 is making our games a lot harder and making and
Yeah.
contributing to us dropping points this season. But look, I think it's fair to say it's not all on Thomas Frank. Don't get us wrong here, because the same old problems keep coming back, Jack, to haunt us. Errors leading to goals.
Yeah.
We saw it last week against Chelsea. We all came back to cost us
Yeah.
points last week, and we saw it twice tonight. It's absolutely killing us. I mean, Sarr trying to play out inside his own box instead of clearing it. Something you're taught when you're 5 years of age. And then Porro doubling down by not picking up on Buemo, something we've seen from him in seasons gone by at Tottenham as a defender, and we get punished for it. Then there's that corner right at the end. United going down to 10 men, people giving away sloppy possession, thinking the game is over, led to their corner, everyone switched off, and we get punished again. Jack, it's basic concentration. And in the Premier League, you cannot keep giving away gifts like that to oppositions, because it's going to come back to your own detriment. Are these constant errors that we're seeing? Because right now we have made the most errors that have directly led to goals this season. Is that down to coaching? Is it down to lack of confidence in the players? Or is it just down to a lack of individual quality?
Hard to say. I think it's more down to the players in their decision making and their own sort of thinking at times that have led to the mistakes. Because as much as that's the case, that we have made some of the most errors that have led to goals, we are statistically better defensively than we were last season.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I can really put that on Thomas Frank. And also, really on both weeks now, the attacking play was so dreadful in the first half against Chelsea and against Man United today. But I think we wouldn't really be as stressed if we went into halftime each game feeling like, you know what? They haven't created very much. We haven't created very much. At least it's 0-0. The game is there for the taking, really. But both weeks now, we've kind of gone into halftime a goal down after giving the goal to the opposition team when they haven't really created much of anything. So you're giving them that leg in the game. You're kind of giving them that hope and that belief that
Yeah.
they can actually walk away with something, even though they haven't been very good themselves. In Chelsea's case, they didn't do very much in the first half, but then in the second half, they went on to absolutely destroy us where they should have won by more. But we gave them that belief. We gave them that confidence by allowing that goal. And then they sort of just took the game from there. It felt like the same thing with Man United. Like they were nothing special in the first half. We gave them that goal from Sarr's mistake. And Sarr as well. Like like he's passing it to Van de Ven, who's like a whole 2 feet away from him. Like, what do you expect him to do with that, really? Like it's a situation where you just have to get it cleared or pick out anyone else really to pass the ball to in that situation. Van de Ven was the last person you should be giving it to. And then Bentancur did a similar mistake where Bentancur, under no real pressure at all, decided to give it away. It led to a corner kick, and we were not good at defending from the set piece either. It's just, yeah, I think it's down to the players, Dave. I don't really know if you can
Mm,
coach those mistakes, really. I think that's just on the players, really.
I do hear what you're saying. For me, I think it's a bit of both. And the reason why, I think, obviously, Frank can't be held for individual decision making in terms of on the pitch. Some of the mistakes we're making and stuff like that. I granted that is on the player. Sometimes you can get into a player and you'll be able to coach it out of them. You highlight it and you work with them. Sometimes you can't. That's just the nature of the beast, right? But I also question, with the amount of errors that are leading to goals, is it also partly down to them not knowing what the game plan is in possession, what we're doing going forward, how we're looking to break down teams and stuff like that? And I think that's where, for me, that is a bit of a coaching issue, and that's where I do put it on Thomas Frank and some of the coaching staff. But, to your point, this happened a lot last season with some of the same players as well. So, therefore, it is a bit of both. But also, I think that last goal we conceded, whose decision was it to put Brennan Johnson
Yeah,
on the lid? Surely that's something that the coaching staff could have maybe got a grip over, noticed, and been out on their bench screaming for someone else to go and pick him up. At the end of the day, he was their main danger from that set piece. He was the only one, if I'm in the dugout saying, Mark came from this set piece, Mykonos Maguire's gone off, he's the only danger man. He did score against us, for Ajax at our stadium, a couple of years ago in the Champions League from a set piece.
yeah,
Mark came, we should be able to defend this. Brennan Johnson doesn't, he gets free, it's a free header. For me, again, partly, I do think
yeah.
that's on the
I
coach.
can agree with that.
They should be on the sidelines recognizing that and screaming for someone else to go and mark them. That's what good coaches do. So I question, were they also sort of sitting back on the bench thinking the job was done? So that's where I sort of put it down on a bit of both, to be honest with you. But look, Jack, it's not all negative today. I mean, let's give credit where it's due. Wilson Odobert, absolutely excellent off the bench today. He changed the game completely, direct, fearless, and constantly asking questions of the opposition defence. Here's his game in numbers today since he came off, or since he came on. 100% pass accuracy, 11 out of 11 completed. 100% duels won, 4 out of 4. 100% take-ons completed, 2 out of 2. 4 crosses, 3 big chances created. 1 tackle, 1 foul, 1, and 1 assist off the bench today. Jack, quite simply, are we starting to see a young player starting to come of age here?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's had some good displays now with Spurs where he's next to Kudus in that he is one of the guys who can drive us up the pitch. He knows how to take players on. He's brave on the ball. He's willing to make things happen. He's an eager player to try to create for others. He's unselfish in that way. And I just feel like maybe there were questions earlier asked of him about, is he strong enough on the ball? Like, is he getting bullied a little bit too often? You're not seeing that as much. Like he is being pushed and shoved, but he's not just falling over and,
Yeah.
getting it taken off of him a few times too. Like you said, with the 100% pass accuracy, there are a few sketchy situations I felt like he was in, and he made the right decision when to go forwards, when maybe to go backwards or sideways when needed. I thought he had a very tidy display. Maybe that's actually part of it. He's a lot tidier. He's a lot tidier on the ball than he's been in other games. We always knew that he was a guy that was willing to take players on, but a few times when he would just sort of give it away unnecessarily, and definitely not this game, and also definitely not against Copenhagen, and then a few more now. So it's nice to see that maybe he is potentially coming into his own here. And I also loved that for the second goal, he was willing to cut inside and take on that shot, really. He played a heavy, heavy hand in
Mhm.
both goals. He had a brilliant driving run that led to Udogie putting in that cross in for Matisse Tell, but I'd say that goal doesn't happen if it wasn't for Odobert making that driving run. And then the second goal, we all knew that was definitely Odebert's creation as well. So fair play to the kid. It's really nice to see because I am a fan of his.
100%. Look, when it came to Wilson Odobert, I'd argue a lot of what we see him do was there. I remember last season against Man City, he took the game to them for 45 minutes. But my big thing around Wilson Odobert was he was raw when it came to that final delivery, that sort of decision making in and around the final third. But him picking up ball, driving at opponents, that was always there. And the only other thing I really questioned was maybe the physicality at times. You go back to
Yeah.
Brighton earlier on in the season when he went to turn his man, got the ball taken off him, it ended up in the back of our own net. We found ourselves 1-0 down. But today I'm seeing a guy that has learnt from that. You're seeing a guy that instead of sort of backing into his opponent trying to take the ball in, he's getting himself separated from the opponent. And that's something I think you're seeing Xavi Simons starting to do as well.
Yeah.
They realise the physicality isn't there. So, you go back and look at what Luka Modric used to do. He used to get himself by himself 5 or 10 yards and back his quickness, his speed of turn. We'd be able to take that player out of the game. And I think you're seeing Wilson Odobert adapt in that regard. But what you're seeing in recently is that end product is starting to become a lot more consistent. You look at that you look at that shot today that Richarlison ended up robbing. I'd argue it was probably going in anyway.
Yeah, it looked like
But
it was.
very bright from Wilson Odobert. You also look, he set up a goal midweek, and
Yeah.
he scored one as well. So he's starting to add them numbers to his game, which was one of the only things really missing. So I do think you are starting to see a player that is benefiting from the experience and the game time that Thomas Frank has given him and the time that he's put into him, and he's really starting to produce. And for me, we've been waiting for someone to put their hand up for that left wing spot.
Yep.
He's got it nailed down until we bring another option in here, in my opinion.
Yep.
But what I love most about the first goal, Jack, and it goes back to what Jamie Carragher done last Monday Night Football, where he's saying, look at some of Tottenham's forward players, so happy just to pass the ball backwards rather than get turned and drive. Wilson Odobert, if you go back and look at that run for that first goal, there was an opportunity there where he could have easily just laid it off backwards and looked to go and receive it again. He didn't. He chose to spin his man, drive at him, played a lovely ball for Udogie. By the way, Udogie's another one that came off the bench and changed that game today.
Yep.
An absolute brilliant cross, left-footed. And that first goal came from a left footer playing on the left-hand side and being able to whip that ball in first time.
Good point.
Absolutely brilliant. So when it comes to Wilson Odobert, I think he walks off this game with a lot of praise. Absolutely brilliant performance. Completely changed that game off the bench. Another player we have to mention, Jack, is Matisse Tal. Great to see him back on the score sheet today. But he's almost been forgotten about in the striker debate. Lately it's been Richarlison, Scarlett, Mawani. No one's really talking about Matisse Tal. But that finisher was maybe a little bit reminder of some of the quality that maybe he does possess. Is that proof maybe that we shouldn't give up on Matisse Tal yet? Could he still have a big part or a role to play this season?
I think the standard is so low right now when it comes to the finishing department because we do create chances here and there. Like, I don't think we're creating chances on a regular enough basis, but we're watching like our own strikers whiffing at opportunities, whiffing at chances. Like, at least Matisse Tal, literally the first time of asking, receives the ball, spins off his man in the box, fires it home. Like you said, it was almost very, very complimentary of you. I think almost Matisse Tal might be thanking you for the way that you described it, but almost a Harry Kane kind of style finish there from him. And I mean, the standard is so low right now that I think you put anyone in the team that can finish. If a guy can finish a chance like that in this forward line, I think you do have to really consider him for contention. It'd be nice if we had a slightly higher standard, but the forward line, I think, is just so poor at the minute that you do need, if someone puts away a chance like that in this forward line, got to get him into the team. So fair play to Matisse Tell. I think he should lift his head high and, should be in contention, at this point, because Richarlison, for me, I'm not sure if we'll bring him up, but he's had so many opportunities this season, to score goals, and he just hasn't done. Even the one, like you said, for Odobert, felt like he maybe slightly robbed it off of him, but he had better chances than that, on the day. And Matisse Tell only had 1 or 2 times of asking and was able to bury one of them. So fair play to the guy.
Well, I was going to have a question about Richarlison today, Jack, but I presume when we do Twitter Reacts, they've probably done that for us. It's probably the Richarlison show. So I said I'll avoid that one today.
Twitter Reacts will be the Richarlison show.
With that one. When it comes to Matisse Tell, look, I never ever thought he was the solution. I was one of them that sort of went against the grain when we signed him around the hype and stuff. And I sort of feel sorry to him to a large degree, Jack, because he was brought here to try and sort of pick up the boots that Harry Kane, or fill the void that Harry Kane had maybe left. And it was
Yeah.
never a realistic expectation to put on the guy in the first place. So he was always doomed to fail from the offset. And then, look, you would argue probably down to his own fault, being left out of the Champions League squad and stuff like that. And I think he's maybe had to learn lessons the hard way, because I think one of the main reasons he was left out was I didn't think he worked hard naturally when he was on the football pitch. However, since then, he got his opportunity against Leeds. He took it. He scored a goal. He got an opportunity today. He's took it. He scored a goal. So fair play to him. Maybe this is a guy that could have a redemption arc, maybe just like Jed Spence. But I'm not going to go too early on it. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to wait for another bit of a bite-sized sample.
Yeah.
But when you're a player in his position, all you can do is take your opportunities and hopefully get back in the manager's good graces. Because when he was left out of the Champions League squad, I've no doubt he was sitting there going, what's my role in the team this year? If I'm left out of the Champions League squad, it obviously means I'm not going to get too many domestic games as well. And that can really affect you psychologically as a young player and a young man. So fair play to the guy for sort of overcoming that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And although I never thought it was the answer, and I do have my problems with the guy in terms of is he good enough moving forward, credit where credit's due.
Well said.
But Jack, let's move on. Just quick conversation around this. To be fair, Frank's substitutions did change the game. Udogie, Odobert, Tell made an impact. Does Frank deserve credit for those substitutions, though? Or was it just him fixing his own mistakes from the starting lineup?
Fixing his own mistakes. I think anyone would have made those substitutions if they were the players he should have gone with from the get-go. The only credit I can give him is that he did bring on Odobert straight away, at halftime. He didn't wait till the 60th minute like lots of managers do, so fair play in that regard. But no, I think it was just covering up for his own mistakes. If anything, too, like, he did take off Cole Milani, and I didn't think that made a lot of sense really at the time either. So I'm not going to give Frank too much credit for the substitutions. At least he did make a lot of substitutions. So maybe I'm just looking maybe for a slight positive in that regard, but at least he did make a lot of substitutions. He didn't just wait till like the last 5-10 minutes and then expect him to perform a miracle. Like, he continued to rotate and change it up, and maybe it worked. Taking Xavi Simons off, though, might have also been questionable when you think about it. So hard to give him a lot of credit, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's hard to give him credit, but where I do give him a small bit of credit is he wasn't stubborn. He realized the mistakes he made, and he went and made them substitutions. I've seen managers at times gone by where they wouldn't admit to that mistake and almost make crazy substitutions you don't even understand. So I give him a bit of credit there, but again, I'm not going to hype him up like everybody has, because he's only fixing his own mistakes from the off. And you would argue, if he put some of them players in from the off, would we be in a position where we had to fix our own mistakes? But Jack, lastly, I think, look, it's one we have to speak about. Pedro Porro, another lackluster display, defensively suspect, offering absolutely nothing going forward either. Is his form starting to become a real concern to you, Jack?
Yeah, I think there was a really good comment, and I'm glad they brought this up, actually, because it might not be in the top of the run sheet in terms of conversations after this game, but it is probably a worthwhile and necessary one. Someone in the chat brilliantly said, Porro's crossing and forward play has been so woeful recently. You kind of feel like, what is he really doing then? Why is he just automatically being put, in the starting lineup then? Because he's giving away goals like he did today. And then if he's not really helping us out going forward either, like, that's his best attribute at the end of the day. So you're questioning and scratching your head for why he's automatic start, in every single game, really. I understand he's always fit, he's always available, he's a bit like a Højbjerg maybe in that regard or something, but he can't continue to play every single game if he's just ballooning every cross out of play or into the goalkeeper's hands. And yeah, Dave, I think it's something to keep note of, is that Jed Spence has also played a lot of minutes, but Jed Spence, be nice to be seeing him be given a run of games on that right side instead of the left side.
I wonder how much of it is down to how much Pedro Porro has been used over the last couple of seasons. Used nearly every game last year,
fatigued.
plus internationals. Again this year, plus internationals. He's probably played, I think if you actually go and look at it, he's probably played the most minutes over the last season and a half across world football, more probably than anybody else. He's played a crazy amount. So I do think there is an element where maybe everything's starting to catch up on him a little bit, and maybe he could do with a rest. And I'd argue there's been games where he could have, maybe rested him, that Frank hasn't taken that opportunity. But, I'm going to be consistent here. One thing I've always said with Pedro Porro, Yes, defensively, he winds me up at times. I think he makes all the wrong decision as a defender. One thing I hate about him is he's continuously backing off looking for help. Something I went mad at. Davies 4, Sanchez 4,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Eric Dyer
that's fair.
4, and I'm going to be consistent with Pedro Porro. It drives me mad. But I've always said in my predicted lineup videos, the reason why he keeps being selected is because we are so lackluster going forward. He is a guy that can create. And I get you shouldn't be relying on your right back, but that's where we are as a team.
Yeah,
And that's why every manager's going to consistently look to pick him because he offers you a threat from dead ball situations. He offers you a good cross into the box. And he's also got a good pass on him where he can, put people in from different angles and stuff like that. But the reality is, this season, that's been very few and far in between. And I am
yeah,
running out of reasons to keep him in the lineup now at this point. And it is starting to become a concern. And for me, I think at some point, he's got to give Jed Spence an opportunity and let's see what he can do over the
yep,
right-hand side. Because although Jed Spence has been great filling in at left back, it really stifles how good we can be going forward because he's constantly looking to cut inside on his right foot. So I want to get back to having a left-footed left back, a right-footed right back. So that means when we do get the ball, we can play out from the back, out wide, and we can go directly down the wings rather than having to shoehorn it across all the time, which is starting to wind up Spurs fans. But guys, there it is. That's our positives to take away from today's game. There's like a few, like I said, but there's also the same reoccurring issues that keep holding us
yep.
back. Inconsistency, sloppy errors, over-rotation, lapses in focus, still not great on the eye going forward, still a team searching for identity. And until all those things change, results like this, drop points, will continue to happen. But that's our thoughts. I want to know what you guys think. So get in the comment section. Did Frank get his team selection wrong? Does he know his best 11? Were Odobert and tell the real positives from today? And are you starting to become worried about Pedro Porro's form? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash a like button. And make sure you watch out for Twitter Reacts. Have a good Saturday evening.
Come on, you Spurs, everyone. See you next
Come
time.
on, Spurs.